Hey guys, what is up? It's Jay. I just recently made a video on the fantasy books that I want to read this year, and now I'm going to be making a video on the sci-fi books that I want to read this year. Now, I love sci-fi, but it's come to my attention that I am not really that well versed in sci-fi. I haven't read that much. But that's all going to change this May, because may the Force be with you, I want to make a Star Wars month and read a ton of Star Wars books. So starting off, I want to read the original Star Wars trilogy. I've watched the trilogy countless times, but I've never read it before, and I'm in love with this leather-bound C-3PO edition. Now next, I recently read Lost Stars by Claudia Gray, and this is a fantastic young adult Star Wars book. I was actually really surprised on how much I liked this book. I still haven't made a video on it, that's coming soon. But the reason I mention that book is because Claudia Gray has written another Star Wars book that I really want to read, and that is Bloodline. This book takes place between The Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, and it's all about Princess Leia. Now, I've heard a lot of great things about this book. I think I'm actually going to like it more than Lost Stars. And then next, I have a ton of these Star Wars books that came out as a promotion for The Force Awakens. So they're from a series called Journey to The Force Awakens, and I have a lot of them. Now, and my original plan was to review all of these before The Force Awakens came out, but I just got too busy with college at that time. I'm not going to bother giving you a synopsis of each and every one of these. I'm sure you could kind of tell just by looking at the title and the cover. First off, there's Moving Target by Cecil Castellucci and Jason Fry, Before the Awakening by Greg Rucka, Smuggler's Run by Greg Rucka, and finally, The Weapon of a Jedi by Jason Fry. Now, these books are really short, so I'm sure I'm going to be able to read them really fast. And if I have time during the month of May, then I might read Star Wars Aftermath by Chuck Wendig. Now, I've heard a lot of controversial things about this book. Apparently, it just isn't the best Star Wars book. I think it's written in second person. This one takes place basically after the original trilogy, so the second Death Star is destroyed and Darth Vader is dead, and it's all about the Rebels battle. But despite what people have said about this book, I'm still going to give it a chance. Okay, so now that the Star Wars books are out of the way, let's move on to some other sci-fi books. Armada by Ernest Cline is a book I really want to read. If you don't know, I'm a huge fan of Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I haven't made any videos of it, just because I read it quite a while ago. I think it was when I was taking a break from BookTube. But yeah, Ready Player One is one of my all-time favorite books. I don't really think Armada is going to live up to it, but at the same time, I like Ernest Cline's writing, so I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it. In short, this book is about a boy who loves science fiction. He loves playing this video game called Armada, and one day he sees the spaceship from Armada in reality. I just love how Ernest Cline always pays homage to classic science fiction and 80s pop culture. Next up is Ancillary Justice by Ann Leck. Now, just by reading the synopsis of this book, it sounds really original. I guess the main protagonist is this artificial intelligence ship, but it can link to all these different soldiers in its fleet, but I guess there's only one remaining human soldier now that it links to. Next is The Thousandth Floor by Catherine McGee. I actually started reading this book a few months ago. I think I got around 3 chapters in, and I was really enjoying it. It was a lot more sci-fi than I was expecting, but at the time I just got caught up with college, and then I felt like reading a different book, so I started reading that book, and I put this one back on the bookshelf. This book takes place in the future of Manhattan, where basically the majority of the population lives in this gigantic tower. Well, I mean, I guess it's 1,000 floors high, but basically the poor people live at the bottom of the tower, and the more richer people live at the top of the tower. There's a lot of crazy technology and stuff in this book, and the book switches between 5 different characters. Now, once again, I haven't really gotten that far into it, but I've heard that it gets pretty dramatic. Next, I want to read The Promise of the Child by Tom Toner. I was sent this book for an honest review by the author. It's a little bit difficult to figure out what this book is about just by reading the back, but basically it takes place in the 147th century, and there's immortals that have lived for thousands of years and different species and stuff. Just by reading the back here, there's a lot of little blurbs from really reliable sources, so I'm hoping this book is going to be really great. Next, I want to read The Vagrant by Peter Newman. This book is about a man named the Vagrant who has to deliver a weapon to the Shining City. Now, this man is completely silent throughout the whole book, so all the dialogue in this book is from people that he comes across and different interactions. I know that's a brief synopsis, but it sounds really interesting to me, and I'm really excited to read this one. And finally, I want to read The Stars Go By and Touched by an Angel. These are 2 different books. Obviously, they are Doctor Who books. I don't really know anything about these books, except for that they're Doctor Who, and this leather-bound edition was enough for me to buy them. But I've never really read a Doctor Who book, so I'm really excited, and I'm hoping this is a good place to start.